and emerging middle class in these areas. To tap onto these consumers, H&M can move online to the eBay of China, which is Taobao Wang. Taobao Wang reaches out to consumers who are technologically savvy, fashionable, and with disposable income. Taobao Wang will be a very cost-effective way to reach these consumers as they are geographically dispersed. There may be many consumers in Hohhot, Inner Mongolia, that are interested in H&M. However, it will not be economically sustainable to move there via the traditional brick-and-mortar method, as there is not a critical mass in these various dispersed cities. As such, as seen by the successes of our competitors, Levi's, Uniqlo, and P&G, Taobao Wang has a critical mass of 370 million users, as well as 50 million unique users every single day visiting, which is a critical mass that H&M can effectively leverage on, effectively with low capital investment and aggregating demand so that we can reach these consumers with the same distribution and supply centers. So, presenting to you H&M on Taobao Wang. And next, now that we have talked about how H&M can move into new markets by moving online, H&M can also increase its growth sustainably by moving into new markets, new platforms. Right now, H&M is on the iPhone with a H&M application, basic features, with catalogs and wish list. However, there's limited geographic reach, only available to consumers in the US in our collaboration with MyTouch, and also the pictures are static and 2D. However, the potential in m-commerce is much bigger than that. Right now in the US, 71% of all consumers own an iPhone, and as high as 47% of them have already begun or will soon be purchasing things on their phones. There's much potential on mobile commerce, and we can tap into that with My H&M Wardrobe. My H&M Wardrobe will have all the items of the new collection, and what you can do is to combine all these outfits together to create a look that you would like. Also, you can combine this with your existing items. For example, I really like your shoes, so I could take pictures of your shoes, combine them with any item on the H&M collection, and then that would be my own creation, my outfit on my H&M Wardrobe. This creates brand saliency, as everywhere I go 24/7, when I'm waiting for the train, waiting for a friend, or when I'm just bored or thinking of fashion, H&M is right there for me to create my H&M wardrobe. After creating these outfits, users are encouraged to post them on social media, Facebook, or tweet about it. Friends are encouraged to like it, and this increases brand saliency as well as the network effect of Facebook and Twitter. With an average of 220 friends, as well as the saliency of these notifications on Facebook, as well as on our wall posts, H&M can increase brand saliency not only to the users, but to their friends as well. The social pressure of friends approving on this will also encourage users to purchase and to share these beautiful outfits with their friends, which increases the new retail channel and has the potential of increasing sales by up to 150% as shown by research.
Behind the glamour of runway shows, there's always the sweat and toil of backstage crew. And in this third part of our recommendation, we focus on addressing internal constraints that could potentially jeopardize our growth plans. So the three elements that could limit our growth are cost, speed to market, and human resources. In the first element, we do know that currently we're hit with a 15-year high in cotton prices. One of the ways to prevent ourselves from being constrained would be to introduce a hedging strategy. Our gains in the case of increase in price of cotton from futures trading will help to offset some of the production costs, increase in production costs, and in so doing, help to ensure that our price is competitive relative to that of our competitors. The next element is that we all know that China is slowly losing its attractiveness as the global production center, and it's critical for us to maintain our positioning as the affordable fashion provider to shift our production bases elsewhere. And we recommend looking into Vietnam, into the Nong Truc Industrial Park, which has a cluster of textile industries, which it has excellent infrastructure, and most importantly, that it's close to seaport, and the government has just introduced a series of policies helping textile industries to cope with the current increase in raw material prices. And we also believe that an additional benefit of relocating a production center to the Vietnam would, aside from the cost benefits, would be the decrease in our speed to market. According to our estimates, we can save potentially up to 3 weeks in lead time from design to retail due to the strategic location of Vietnam and its proximity to the Asia-Pacific region. Last but not least, we'll need to address the HR issue which could constrain our growth. In terms of salespeople, there are 2 ways we can grow that. We can resolve that problem. First is increase the number of salespeople, and secondly, increasing the efficiency of the salespeople. We believe that increasing this efficiency will be a lot more relevant in today's context. And secondly, in order to attract the managers, we will need to launch a management associate program which could target business students like CBS students, and in 2 years' time, they will be able to fill the ranks of the management, which will pave the way for international expansion. And moving on, very important to note, 35.4 billion in NPV makes this a proposal extremely financially attractive. And here is the implementation timeline, which you can go through subsequently. And as Giorgio Armani couldn't dream of the day that he would become a designer. But we believe with our recommendations, it would not be a dream for H&M to poise itself for global dominion down the fashion runway. Thank you.
So, we're now ready for our 15 minutes Q&A session. And again, during Q&A, only the members of the jury is allowed to ask questions. Are you ready? Jury ready? Let's start.
Thank you. Have you considered other alternatives to how to capture China, such as acquisitions?
Testing. Could you repeat that question, please? Sorry.
Have you considered other alternatives how to capture China, such as acquisitions?
As I mentioned at the start, we will not be considering acquisitions at the moment. If you have actually gone to the flagship store of H&M in Beijing and Shanghai, you realize that there are a lot of people in H&M. There is demand for this brand in China. And what better way to grow this reputable brand than to grow it the H&M way? And so what we'll be doing in China is really to market the H&M brand equity to the Chinese consumers, and we will not be considering acquisition in the short run.
Today, the HR strategy is based in Stockholm, and the product development and design is also based and decided in Stockholm. Have you discussed if the Far East strategy here has some complications for where you are going to develop your products, designs, and if you're going to look into more diversified strategies regarding HR, product development, and design development?
Thank you for your question. With regards to design and production, we believe that fashion is universal. And H&M so far has been forecasting trends accurately throughout the world. And so we'll still be continuing to have a consistent brand image and product offering all across the world.
Well, just along that line, because you spoke about specific customer preferences, and I would imagine you spoke about Asia Pacific. And maybe it's not quite the same design the customer would like in Asia Pacific compared to the US, like the Europe and so on. If that's the case, what would be the implications on the cost? Because so far it's been one design fits all.
Okay. If I understand you correctly, you're saying that the differences in consumer preferences in Asia Pacific could potentially have an impact on our strategy?
And on the cost side, because if you can't produce the same garments for the whole world, you need to have different designs for different areas, and it does mean that your production has to be organized in that manner.
Okay, currently we do have several production centers, if I'm not wrong. There is Bangladesh, there is Eastern Europe, and there is Morocco. And what we recommended during recommendations is the setting up or shifting a production basis from China area slowly towards the Vietnam region that was supplied to Asia Pacific region. And we believe, based on our research, that would provide ample quantities and varieties for the Asia Pacific region. As for the American side, we believe that our production bases in Morocco would be more appropriate in terms of both the geographical distance and in terms of the lead time. And since most of the design is done centrally, we believe that that's not going to have an impact specific to our cost.
Next question. Sorry.
To add, if I may add on to that, as of the moment, in the short to medium run, consumers in the Eastern world, especially in Shanghai, in China, consumers still look towards Western Europe and North America for fashion trends. As such, design is not much of a problem.
Okay, we'll jump into the next one, which is concerning the accessories that you are focusing on. What's the limitations to what kind of accessories that can be included in the assortment? So how far will you go?
In the short run, we'll be focusing more on necklaces, bangles, rings and earrings, things that are smaller and easier to produce, also lower cost. We feel that H&M does not really have a competitive advantage, perhaps in design of shoes and the comfort in shoes, and also bigger items such as bags. So in the short run, the focus will be on smaller size accessories.
If I may add on to that, we have a very strong team of designers that we pride ourselves on. And what we would do really is when they are designing a new season collection to maybe fashion some of the accessories to go along with it to complement the entire outfit.
I can't help tease you a little bit. This was female accessories.
Yes, sir.
What about the men?
We are open to exploring that concept in future.
Now, this was not a presentation that was overloaded with financial numbers, which in principle I like. But anyway, I guess you have worked on some numbers, and the strategy that you propose is, I guess, is financially sound. Have you worked on some numbers, and how do they look?
Okay, as far as the financial projections are concerned, I'm not sure which one is it. Here. Okay. We believe that it's actually very healthy. The base case MPV is 35.4 billion over a span of 10 years. And the worst case scenario, which takes into consideration possible failures and possible lower growth rates in the Asia Pacific regions and around the world that we're going into, is 28.4 billion. And the best case scenario, of course, is a very positive 44.3 billion. And we believe that it's sufficient to justify that this proposition is very financially attractive.
Then another question back to the males, which is one of your core strategy, focusing on the males. Can you elaborate a little bit on why to choose men? And that's a pretty broad group, but I guess there's a number of other segments that you could look into, and also a bit more narrow segment than just a very broad definition, men.
Well, firstly, I think we're a brand that is known for being fashionable. And currently, we're very strong in the women apparel. And what best next to launch in, but in the men's fashion? We realized in our visit in Copenhagen that a lot of the males here are very trendy. And in Asia Pacific, that is also starting to take on really fast. And therefore, we see this as a very lucrative market that could increase in the future. Secondly, in terms of children's wear, we actually see that a lot of younger kids are trying to dress up in Asia Pacific, trying to look a little more mature. And what this means for us is that the male segment would help us to tap across different age groups and would definitely represent an increase in revenues for us.
And speaking from a male perspective, I'll really be very relieved to find more men's clothes in H&M.
Would it be possible to see the financial figures for each of your strategy? Can you see the cash flow from the men's strategy and the cash flow from the accessories, or is it just one lump chunk?
No, definitely. It may not be very clear over here. Let me see. Let me see, which one is it? Okay. Well, I think it's probably easier for me to just iterate it verbally. What we have projected essentially, we base it. The base growth rate is 12%, which is currently how H&M has been growing over the past 5 years. And subsequently, we add on a 1.6%, which is due to our geographic expansion strategy to shift our focus away from Western Europe and towards Asia Pacific. And the second thing about the incremental value of the accessories, we projected a very conservative 0.5% to group revenue because of the very attractive market potentials. But of course, we want to keep it very conservative. Otherwise, I think the numbers will look even more fantastic.
Have you had any thoughts on the loss in market share in Western Europe, which is still the biggest part of the business?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, my voice is not that good. I'll try again. Have you had any thoughts on the loss in market share in Western Europe, which is still the biggest part of H&M's business?